Good morning, good afternoon. My name's Graham and I would like to discuss the ad hoc energy climate policy that's been put into place by incompetent politicians, aided and abetted by extremely incompetent and lazy corporate sector and the media sector. The energy policy and climate policy of Australia is an absolute disaster from any perspective, from the perspective of energy supply, from perspective of economic supply, because the economic supply of energy then supplies the financial energy and the monetary and economic energy into the country, into society and nation, that then grows the economy without the debt. The greater cost of energy, greater drag it is on the economy, then the greater debt there shall be. Now, what is energy? The thing is, they don't want to define what energy is. They imagine it's something that's made in the coal power station or the wind generators or the fuel tank of a car, and it's not. Energy can only be measured by the value. The dollar unit is a unit of energy. It's the only way to understand energy. The more energy individuals put in, the more dollar units, in other words, the more hours they work, the more they sit in traffic jams, the more hours they spend in an office or the factory or whatever, spend their own energy trying to pay for the dollar energy, the currency if you're required, to pay for their basic daily requirements and their rents and their electricity bills, the more less efficient, energy efficient the economy is. So the whole economy must be looked upon as an energy generating system, and it seems to be something that's totally missing amongst the corporate sector, the media sector, the university sector and the political sector of Australia. They seem to have lost the plot. They can't do the most basic of maths and understand that without cheap energy and reliable energy, the economy must eventually falter and people come at risk. And what they've done chasing, pretending to be greenies, the left, the Liberals and the ALP pretended they care about climate change. I doubt if they give a damn. And if you question them for 2 minutes, have you heard of China or India expanding the amount of CO2 it has every few weeks is far greater than what we do in a year in Australia? Whether they can answer that honestly or not anymore, well, that's a matter for them. If they would actually ever put on the trial that's required or the interrogation that's required to actually get to the bottom of the disaster these people have caused, the ALP and the Liberals have caused, pretending to be greenies and chasing Paris agreements. The point is, what these people have done, and it's a very serious question about the corporate sector, the banking, financial sector and all the sectors involved, who should be well aware that the cost of energy, if you raise the cost of energy, whatever means you use, and there was never any reason to raise the cost of energy at all whatsoever to lower emissions. The two things are totally separate. They've connected them, now they can't, they've intertwined them, entangled them, now they can't untangle this knot they've created for themselves and for society as a whole, which is exponentially creating a massive debt for people because of the dollar now is a far less value energy wise. Say a dollar before was worth 12 amps before, and now if you want to measure inflation, now dollar's only worth 4 amps. Is a way of looking at your dollar. Your dollar's got less power now than it had before. So not only has the country got less power and energy in its infrastructure, the people's dollar has got less energy in the dollar. So therefore you're putting more and more energy in your work day and in your life to get less and less out of it. And that's as simple as that. So therefore it's the inflation is totally and utterly negative, and it's a recessive. It's obviously there's something missing in their conversations that they don't understand. They never bothered to inspect the idea or examine the idea of how do you refine fuels on shore in Australia at refineries, and how the cost of raising electricity, which is required to produce this fuels onshore, how by raising the cost of that, you make it ever more expensive to refine fuels in this country. So therefore the refineries, not only that, by creating this system that relies on unreliable energy systems like wind and solar, which are totally unreliable. No one can say they're reliable because they're not. It doesn't even make sense. The sun doesn't shine at night time, and often the wind doesn't blow at night time either at the same time. So therefore they've created a system that is bound to have some great big holes in its ability to supply, especially major industries like a refinery, what draws an awful lot of current. It draws an awful lot of amperage to refine the fuels. And by doing that, by saying, well, we cannot rely upon a constant supply of base power to the refineries, it risks, and I was a refractory engineer, I used to work in refineries and repair them and have some understanding of this. So if you close down, if halfway through a production of, say, making crude oil, which goes through a series of processes and makes different products as it goes up, the refiner goes up the system, it gets heated up and it goes up and it gets refined into tar and petroleum, even petroleum jelly and all the different things, and eventually you can get some gases out of it, etc. So there's a lot of different products made out of this thing, not just fuel for cars, that the Greens and the Left and the Liberal Party don't seem to understand or have a clue about. They don't understand there's more to coal and fossil fuels or mineral fuels than there is just to run your cars. There's a whole heap of byproducts from these, but basically a society cannot live without. You cannot exist without all these products. Plastics and medicines and all sorts of things, paints and dyes are refined from these products. That these people in politics and the corporate sector seem to have no understanding about how basically a modern society is structured, or what its foundation is on. Its foundation is on having a highly efficient energy system what allows cheap refining of fuels, so then you can supply your system and your society and your nation and its economy with affordable fuel, affordable energy. And they haven't done this. And if your fuel's unreliable, if your baseload power is unreliable, because it's gone into this intermittent power system which solar and wind are, the massive energy loss systems these really are, then chances are your refinery can suffer a great big explosion. I mean, you're creating a system which suddenly can stop halfway through a refining process, and obviously that then would cost millions and millions of dollars, because you've clogged up the whole thing would solidify because of the tar, the things you put on the road is produced within this process, and that would all solidify in this process, create a massive, you could not continue and siphon your different byproducts off into the different systems. It's a very complex system, and they have to siphon all the different products as they come, as they rise up a retort, and it all gets siphoned off at different levels, depending on the temperatures and specific gravities and all that. That would all stop. You'd create a bomb, in other words. And then these politicians, the Labour Party, the Liberal Party, pretending to be Greens, go along with the media, have all gone along with them, regardless. The Murdoch media and the ABC have all gone along with this. None of them have seemed to have had the acumen or intelligence or mathematical ability, or even the basic understanding of how a nation sustains its economy without accruing a massive amount of debt. And now they've put Australia at risk, sovereign risk, by having we don't have any fuel supply onshore, so any sort of hold up, any problems at sea, we can be within 2 weeks. When our fuel supply is ended, stopped for some reason, for any reason, a storm, a cyclone, whatever, you can get a massive cyclones, a typhoon if you like, a tsunami, all these things, natural phenomena. Krakatoa can go up. Natural phenomena, just like that, can then stop Australia receiving fuels, and within 2 weeks the whole place comes to a standstill. The whole place comes to a standstill. Now the ALP and the Liberals, if they ever pick this up, they need to get together, act like grown-ups for once, consult with people outside their little tiny circles who will tell them some own truths and be able to create a solution to this terrible problem they have created, pretending to be greenies, pretending to bow to Get Up, which is committing espionage against Australia, as it's financed by people who want to bring down an end to the Western system, and at the same time creating an invasion of non-productive immigrants, therefore creating a massive cost burden as well, adding to a whole nefarious, recessive and negative cost burdens that is already created by appalling energy policy and actually appalling housing policy as well. You combine the two, an appalling housing policy, as if you can push house prices up forever and ever and keep wages down at the same time. I mean, whereas you've got to ask yourself, where is the intelligence in politics, in the media, in the corporate sector, in the universities, that you can't work these very, very simple things to understand out for themselves and do and act according to knowledge and intelligent data in a rational, productive, a practical and positive manner, instead of doing a totally opposite, recessive, negative and progressively worse and worse. They call it progress. It's actually progressively getting more and more debt to the system, and it's becoming retarded. And now the Labour Party and Liberal Party really ought to get together on this, stop using it as a political football, climate change, and get together, act like grown-ups, act like mature adults, or they're actually unfit to be in politics, unfit for Parliament. That's as simple as that. You can't be such an immature person that you can't actually do proper research yourself, leave it to consultants and or whatever to tell your spin, that you then say to the public, because you've never bothered to bother yourself with actually doing the practical research possible. And that's what's wrong with the whole of the political system. It's lazy, intellectually lazy-minded, and it doesn't seem to give a damn about the country of Australia itself. It doesn't actually represent the country. In other words, it represents a corporate sector and the political sector, and aided and abetted by corporate media. But whether it's democratic or not, if you don't explain things properly in a practical sense and a rational sense, most people do not get it. So therefore, you've misinformed them, so it's no longer actually what you could call as a democratic principle. Thank you. My name's Graham.